We're talking about pregnancy tropes and how those potential little bundles of joy can mess with the plot. Hey all, and welcome to my vlog. My name is Erin, and this is Trope or Nope, where we examine tropes that commonly show up in love stories and the romance genre. Today we're talking about pregnancy tropes, specifically Knocked Up to Save the World, mpreg, and the baby trap. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell because I always have new bonus content coming out. Also, content warning for this video, because we're talking about pregnancy, there will be some mentions of abuse and miscarriage. First up, what is the knocked up to save the world trope? This trope involves a character getting pregnant and usually birthing said child in order to save the world. Obviously, this is much more common in fantasy or paranormal, with one or both parents being of supernatural origin. The character getting pregnant will often be super fertile to aid in conception. Maybe the child they birth is going to be ultra super magical. Maybe the parent carrying the child gets extra magic while they're pregnant. Whatever the reason, these characters better be getting busy before the apocalypse descends. Why do people like it? I've seen this trope bring together characters who are perfect for each other, but are otherwise refusing to get into a relationship. It also does not tend to have the same sinister nature as the baby trap trope, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it does force characters together and bind them for the foreseeable future. Why might it suck? Obviously, this trope is going to ignore if the character even wants to have kids or be pregnant. They simply must, or the world will end for whatever reason. If you were intending to remain childless, or you wanted to wait until you were in a stable relationship or hit some other life milestone, well, sucks to be you, I guess. Having this kind of pressure on fertility can be super stressful, and I can 100% see how this trope would result in a very traumatic experience for the character. Next up, what is the mpreg trope? Mpreg is short for male pregnancy. Note that this trope is often more common around cis men getting pregnant, but it is not excluding trans characters. While mpreg is probably most common in the Omegaverse, which I'll be discussing in an upcoming video, it does show up in other types of stories either because of magic or science or the power of love. Typically, if a child is born from two cis males, no explanation is given. The mechanics and the birthing process are often ignored in favor of just focusing specifically on the pregnancy and or the resulting child. Why do people like it? I assume part of the allure for this trope comes from the fact that it allows queer pairings to have biological children. If everyone can have their own biological children, then it seems like the world building would open up a lot. No longer would the king have to marry a cis woman. Instead, he could marry his male lover and still have his lineage. No more grandparents lamenting that they'll never have biological grandchildren. And there would probably be fewer struggles with adoption or surrogacy. Why might it suck? Honestly, I don't think there's anything inherently bad with the trope itself. Any sucky stuff would probably come from the portrayal of the relationship or the circumstances surrounding the pregnancy. It's a baby boy. What is the baby trap trope? The baby trap is when someone in a relationship causes a pregnancy without the consent of the other party. This is in order to trap that partner or to bind them together for the life of the child. This is not the exact same as reproductive coercion, but it does hit a lot of the same notes, and in either case it is reducing the reproductive autonomy of people in the relationship. Let's go through some of the common versions of this as well as some examples. Unfortunately, several items on this list are types of rape or sexual assault, and there will also be spoilers for Glee, Desperate Housewives, and Jane the Virgin. Number 1, faking a pregnancy to trap a partner, such as what happens with Terry Schuster in Glee, where she has a hysterical pregnancy. When she finds out she is not pregnant, she continues to lie to her husband in order to trap him in that relationship. Usually in cases like this, the intention is to have a convenient miscarriage at a later time, usually once the characters are married or otherwise bound together, but in this particular example, her goal was to adopt a baby in secret. Number 2, sabotaging birth control, such as in Desperate Housewives, where Carlos switches out Gabrielle's birth control with a placebo and she gets pregnant. Number 3, lying about the parentage of the child when you know who the biological parent is, such as what occurred in Glee when Quinn was pregnant and lied to Finn about the parentage when she knew who the father was. And number 4, using a sperm sample to get pregnant, such as in Jane the Virgin, where Petra took Raphael's sperm samples on 2 occasions to attempt getting pregnant without his consent. Why do people like it? It's dramatic. The baby trap trope is a staple of soap operas and telenovelas because of the conflict it creates that absolutely must be dealt with. You can't just sweep a baby under the rug. In some versions of this, it actually does result in the relationship between the characters being salvaged, but that is not common. The terrifying reality of this trope also tends to be very glossed over, which we're going to talk about in the next point. Why might it suck? Reproductive coercion is a thing that happens in real life and is strongly linked to intimate partner violence. In all cases, it is manipulation and abuse, and in many cases, it would also be considered rape. Having a kid is a massive deal. And for the person carrying the child, there can be many health risks and permanent conditions that arise from it. There is no good reason for a character to enact the baby trap trope. Taking away reproductive choice is dangerous and can be deeply traumatic for all people involved. If your characters do this, I'm going to assume that they're the villain and hate them accordingly. So, what do you think of these tropes? What are your favorite and most hated pregnancy tropes? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. You can check out all of my books if you like fantasy or romance. All the links to them as well as my social media will be in the description below. Subscribe to my channel and ring that bell, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!